Ehud, I want to come back to the diagnosis and treatment issues. But first, there's two kinds of Alzheimer's, as I understand it, right? There's what you call sporadic, and then the one that's familial.
I would say it's two patterns of emergence.
Oh, that's what you call it.
The disease is the dynamics is pretty much the same.
I see. So it's the same disease, but two patterns by which it emerges. Okay.
And it differs, of course, in the age of onset.
Yeah, it's what, 50s for the familial?
Most cases, there are some exceptions, but most cases for familial are around the 5th decade of life, while sporadic disease normally onsets at the 7th decade or later.
I see. So, but the mechanism you say is the same, so I presume the diagnosis would be the same and the treatment would be the same, or is that not true?
So regarding the mechanism, it's very hard to tell because there are many unknowns regarding what causes Alzheimer's, and practically we are not sure that there is only one mechanism. However, the dynamics, how the disease onsets, how it's diagnosed, and how it proceeds is well defined, and it's pretty much the same, familial and sporadic.
So if you know that, can you use that to come and tell the chances of somebody really developing if you're 40 years old and you do some tests, or is that far into the future?
So there are scientific issues as well as legal issues.
Right.
So if we are talking about the familial cases, we know many mutations which are linked to the disease, and they are carried by individuals, members of specific cohorts or specific families.
Right.
Now, practically, scientifically, it's possible to diagnose those people early on and see whether they will develop the disease or not. There are several legal issues which I'm not expert in, and I know that there are limitations about doing that because Alzheimer's, as we all know, unfortunately, is uncurable at the moment.
So it affects their ability to get insurance and jobs and all those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I don't want to elaborate
issue.
on that because I'm not an expert. It's totally separate issue.
But that's only about 10% of Alzheimer's, right?
Up to 10%, depends on the population, but that's the minority. Majority of cases onset sporadically. And although it's onset sporadically, there are several genes which are known to, and certain variants of specific genes are known to be risk factors. And it doesn't mean that someone who carries this variant would develop the disease, but statistically, this person has higher chances to.
Right.
But still, since it's an uncurable disease, we get to the same point of legal and the social issues which are beyond my expertise, and I'm not the one to ask about it.
But once you know the mechanism, or one of the possible mechanisms, because you don't know how many mechanisms are at work, but you know this is a critical mechanism, how can you connect that up with treatment or some way of dealing with? Because most people I know, including myself at my age, it's one disease that really scares you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go lots of ways, but you don't want to go that way.
I'll answer this question in two levels.
Okay.
First, in the scientific research level, what we suggest is to manipulate the aging process and prevent disease. Although we don't really understand what's going on downstream, but we do know, based on our studies, that if we slow the aging process, we can prevent the onset of disease. Whatever the mechanism is, it works.
So we gotta exercise, you mean? Yeah.
Now, that's the second level. And here again, as a basic scientist who's interested in molecular mechanisms, human beings are too complicated to understand at this level.
But if you make the worm exercise, do they live longer?
I don't know about the worms, but it was published by others that if you make mice exercise, so it's not that they live longer, but they delay the onset of disease.
I see.
And I think it's widely accepted that exercise, healthy diet, maintaining healthy weight, being cognitively active is a good approach in order to prevent or if not prevent, at least delay the onset of disease.
I see.
Yeah, but it's beyond my expertise, which are molecular mechanisms.
I know, but the hope is placed on you guys to say, once you get the mechanism straight, then we can figure out how to do it. I know it's a lot of pressure, and you say, well, look, that's not beyond me because it's too complicated. It's in the future, science fiction still. And I've got a big enough job here. I want to get to, because two of your papers became very important. One just in 2008, one 2006 when I was reading the literature, and they're referred to often. Are they about, they're specifically about this mechanism that you identify, right?
Yeah, so the 2006 paper, which was published in the Science magazine, was addressing directly the question of, is there a mechanistic link between aging and the onset of toxic protein aggregation? This project was conducted exclusively in worms. So this is not Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer-like toxic protein aggregation, I would say. And then we defined, in this paper, we described a mechanism that we defined that we talked about before. The one of them is the disaggregation, which enables degradation, and the second one is the hyperaggregation, which reduces toxicity. Now, I think that the most important thing that we show there, that both mechanisms are negatively regulated by the aging process. So by reducing the rate of aging, by reducing the rate of IGF insulin signaling, we could prevent the onset of disease in worms. And I think that's where the excitement came from. The second paper, which was published 2009 in Cell magazine, we took it to the next level, which is the mouse, and we wanted to elaborate on what we found in the worms. So first, we were able to show that the same mechanism is conserved from worms to mice, and we showed that it's not only protect the animal from toxic protein aggregation, but it actually protects from cognitive decline associated with Alzheimer's disease. And that's the paper of 2009.
Right, because a lot of references, and you got a prize for that paper, didn't you?
I got a...
Or is it for both papers? I'm not sure.
It's not directly related to the papers, but yeah, I won recently a prize from the American Federation for Aging Research for achievements in Alzheimer research.
Now, one of the things, when you get these prizes, they give you recognition, but then they bring also all kinds of attention to yourself, which isn't about the science. I want to know, just as a side issue, how do you handle this? Because you recently were in Canada, you do this public relations, you do the, you know, part of the way you get money for your labs, so you can continue doing your research, and maybe for postdocs, which I think helps. How do you feel about that kind of extra work that's added on to your responsibilities as a scientist?
You know, we are not in a vacuum. You know, I think being a scientist and working in the academia has several aspects. One of them is to raise money, of course, and to convince people that what we are doing is important. And I think that it's right, because after all, we are spending public money. And the public has the right to understand what he's paying for. Why is it important? And I think that in one hand, bringing the attention of the general public of what is going on in the labs and how it's going to benefit the public in the future is very important. And on the other hand, being part of the faculty means that I have to take part in the general effort to bring money in and to maintain the high level of teaching in our faculty, and so on. So I think, from my point of view, it's a package deal. You want to be a scientist, you have to contribute on other aspects as well.
But you know yourself that some people aren't so good on doing that other aspect. They're scientists, but they can't be the public relations. One of the things I've learned, and this is the last thing I'll say, is in these series of interviews, is that Hebrew University professors are not only good at science, the ones I've talked to, they may be pre-selected, so it's not a objective account. We're very good in communicating, and you were excellent, and I want to thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for the compliment, and it was my pleasure being at the show.